Okay, now for the panties. What we are going to do is take the outside fabric, whatever you're using, and I'm going to sew up the front panel. Now, if you forget to do your little clips, one clip is the front, two clips is the back. But another way you can tell is the back is always longer. The back is always longer because it has diaper room. So this is my front, okay? So what I'm going to do is just sew up that J. Okay? Now, everybody says, does that include this? No. A J is just right there. J's don't go down. So just sew your J in your crotch. So you can see I sewed my J up, then I sandwich pressed it, and then I open pressed it. Okay? So now I have this nice long piece. And now it's time to add the ruffle to the top of it. What we're going to do is just lay this down on the pair of panties, and we're just going to sew it up. Okay? And when you put that elastic in, it will make the ruffle. Okay, so I've pinned that all across the top. Now I'm just going to take a straight stitch and sew it down. Now that I have that, I'm going to flip it over here, and I'm going to sew the J again for the back this time. Putting my pins about every 2 inches and only sewing the actual J shape. Okay, so now that I have both J shapes sewn, I'm going to bring these together. This is the crotch, okay? And I'm going to bring the crotch to each other. The first thing I like to do anytime I sew the crotch is do the middle, okay? Then I'm going to pull this out and get a pin over here and a pin over here. Okay, and I'm just going to sew that straight across. Okay, so now I have the panties, essentially. But I have to add the lining and the elastic. Okay, so right now they look like cute little boy shorts. Now we'll take the lining and we're going to sew the J up on both sides and then the crotch. And again, you can use white lining. I'm using the same color fabric just because I like the way it looks. So here's my lining. Now I'm just going to, I sewed both J's up. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the crotch. Now that I have my outside piece, and it's the one with the ruffle, and my lining, I am going to not turn my lining. I'm going to take my shorts, which are turned right side out, and I'm going to stick them inside my lining, pretty sides together. Okay? I'm going to match up the seams, or the J's, which is the center front and center back, making sure that I have both back seams, matching back seams, front seams to front seams. And I'm going to pin this all the way around in a big circle. Okay, I've pinned the whole thing up, right sides together. Now all I'm going to do is take my normal stitch all the way around this, okay? And we're going to be able to flip it through the legs. And now I'm going to take it, I'm going to reach inside, and I'm just going to pull it out. And you can see we have finished the top of that really nicely now. I'm going to stick my lining inside. And I'm going to iron that waistband down. Okay, so the next step is a little bit confusing. Because what we're doing, instead of doing a typical waistband where we have a little opening and we can slide this in and casing it, the casing is actually coming through the 2 layers of lawn shorts. So what I'm going to do is sew, here's my elastic that I'm going to put in, and I am going to sew a top stitch line, top stitch just means on top, at about anywhere from 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. I don't want to have to fight to get my elastic in there. So depending on the side of your elastic, depends on how big you're going to make this, okay? So what I'm going to do is literally top stitch, except for right here where I'm going to leave that opening, right where the little flags are, okay? I'm going to leave that opening so I can get a safety pin in with my elastic and run it through. So I'm going to start my top stitch right here. Okay, so hopefully you can see I started my top stitch and I ended my top stitch right there, which is going to allow me to go in here and take my elastic through that hole, okay? So now I need the elastic, and what I need is my child, whoever's fitting into these, waist minus 1 inch. So my little girl is 17-inch waist. This is for, she's 2, so I'm going to do it 16 inches. Another option for the elastic is if you don't have them with you to know what their waist is, what you can do is just leave it attached, and we can leave it hanging out and hanging open, and you can tighten it and see where it needs to go and then cut it off. So the first thing you're going to do is stick your safety pin through the end of the elastic just like that. I like to use Big Fat Safety Pins. They do make a tool that does this for you, but a lot of people don't have it, so that's why I'm showing you how to do it other ways. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to see my little opening right there. I'm going to run my safety pin right into that hole, okay? And then I'm going to start working that safety pin around. The larger the hole, the easier this is going to get through, okay? So, see, I'm not having very much trouble at all pushing this through. If this was a little tiny safety pin or a little tiny area, we would really be fighting with it. Okay, so here I am, okay, and I'm simply going to pull this out. I'm going to put these two pieces together, and I am going to sew over top of them. So now I have my elastic sewn together, and I can just pull my waistband. And there we have a little waistband for her, okay? And if it needs to be tighter, all you have to do is stick your hand up in here, grab your elastic, and pull it a little bit tighter, okay? And what you can do now is just run a top stitch right over that little hole if you want, and you won't even see that. I'm not even going to worry about it because I just don't think you're going to notice it. It's kind of part of the little flaps. So I'm going to leave it as is and move on to my elastic in my legs. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I took both layers of shorts, I matched the seam, and I pinned them in a circle. And I'm going to go ahead and just sew these all the way around. And that's just to keep them together so I don't have to fight and try to work with them throughout the next step. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to roll it up once, and I'm going to roll it up again, just like that, and I'm going to make a casing for my elastic. And this is just for their legs, okay? So 1 is just to clean the edge, and 2 is for the actual casing. So I'm going to roll it up, and then I'm going to pin it all the way around just like this. Okay, now that I have it pinned, I am going to do another stitch right here where my fingernail is, okay? And that's going to leave me casing. I'm going to leave a little hole open right here so I can go ahead and slip that elastic in the same way using a safety pin. Okay, so you can see I stitched it really, really close to the edge, and I left that hole open for my safety pin. So what I need to do now is stick that piece of elastic through the leg openings. Okay. Okay, so I have my piece of elastic cut that's a little bit larger than my child's leg, and I'm going to just run it through again, leaving that little casing open. You can see right there. I'm going to take it all the way around, and then I'm going to sew them together. Then I'm going to go back and top stitch right there. You can see I'm pulling this through, and because the piece of fabric is larger than my piece of elastic, my elastic's starting to come through. So what I'm going to do is just pin that elastic in place right there, so there's no chance of me losing it somewhere in this. So I'm going to pull them out and pull both pieces out and sew it just like I did before, and you can see how we have our cute little panties. And there we have them, some cute little panties to go along with our adorable little top. And I can't wait to go try it on her. There we go.